get legislation. Oops, I'm sorry, I got to click on the recording in progress. Um, the legislation is designed to really protect you all in the commercial space and to make sure that for the bad actors that there are penalties and fines, that there are consequences to actions, and that we do a better job of tightening and regulating this space. So happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Senator Belt. So now we want to bring to the conversation Brent Adams of Woodstock. I mentioned earlier in our opening that you will hear statistics. So Brent will lay out a foundation and a framework by which this work is laid upon. So with that, Brent, please take it over.
Thank you, Tasha, and thank you so much, Senator Belt, for starting us off. As you know, Senator, in 2021, thanks to your leadership and the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus, the Illinois General Assembly passed and the governor signed the Predatory Loan Prevention Act, which capped the interest rate on consumer loans at 36%. Before that, the average interest rate on a payday loan was 297%. Comparing 2019 to 2022, Illinois consumers have saved over $600 million thanks to the PLPA. But I'm here to talk about a type of lending that is not covered by the PLPA, and that is small business lending. Predatory small business lending is, in some respects, more devastating than predatory consumer lending because predatory small business lending can reverberate throughout a community. They result in lost jobs and a lack of access to goods and services that can doom a neighborhood. Now, this first slide visualizes that phenomenon. The top picture is a street in Wicker Park, a vibrant neighborhood in Chicago, and the bottom slide is a street in Detroit. The small business lending market consists primarily of two types of lenders: banks, which are heavily regulated, and non-banks, which are practically unregulated. In Illinois, as in most states, a non-bank lender to small businesses does not even need a license. In general, bank loans are more transparent and have more favorable terms than non-bank loans, which are often not transparent or even deceptive, and which can have triple-digit interest rates. The data I'm going to present is a sequel to data we presented in a series of reports in 2017 and 2019 called Patterns of Disparity. The reports looked at racial, ethnic, and economic disparities with respect to loans by banks to small businesses. Today's presentation is based on data from 2018 to 2022, and all of this data is data reported by banks under the Federal Community Reinvestment Act. Non-bank lenders are not required to report their data in any way. I want to thank Woodstock's research team, in particular Sukriti Sood, for crunching the numbers that I'm about to present. But before turning to the data, we have a fun little poll. Please go ahead and, next slide. Please go ahead and launch the poll. All right, and now indicate which of the following applies to you and check all that apply. Give you about 10 more seconds. All right, let's publish the results. So you'll see that there's a significant number of small business owners present and a significant number of folks who work at a small business or small nonprofit, and a large number of folks who rely on one or more small businesses for goods and or services. The point of this poll is to demonstrate that the issue of access to credit for small businesses affects nearly all of us, if not all of us, because predatory small business loans can result in higher prices or in the business closing entirely, which deprives us and our community of the goods and services that the small business provides. All right, the next slide shows some of the new data. Now, this slide depicts economic disparities in access to small business loans from banks. The first column, we'll call that the gray column. The gray column represents population size. So looking at the right side of the slide, census tracts that are considered lower income constitute 8.1% of census tracts in Illinois in 2018 to 2022. The second column represents the number of small business loans, the percentage of small business loans received by that community in 2018 to 2012. So lower income census tracts in Illinois received 5.2% of the small business loans from banks during the 2018 to 2022 time period, a disparity of 2.9%. Now, the analogous disparity in our August 2019 report was 3.6%. So the data from 2018 to 2022 shows an improvement, 3.6 down to 2.9. Now, the data in the next slide shows some significant changes. For 2018 to 2022, looking at the right side of the slide, census tracts that are more than 60% non-white, which we will call communities of color, constitute 21.2% of census tracts in Illinois. And these census tracts received 20.7% of the state's small business loans from banks, a disparity of 0.5%. The analogous numbers in our August 2019 report showed a significantly worse disparity. Communities of color represented, that is, 18.8% of the census tracts in Illinois, but they received only 15.2% of the small business loans from banks, a disparity of 3.6%. Now, reducing the disparity from 3.6% to 0.5% is noteworthy. And you'll note a similar trend for predominantly white communities on the left side of the chart, suggesting that there is a more equitable distribution of small business loans by banks in our state now than there was during our prior report. For Woodstock, an equitable distribution of small business loans has Black, brown, and lower income communities receiving more than their proportionate share of the population. Such a distribution would be necessary to begin to reverse the effects of decades of disinvestment in these communities. Next slide, please. So what caused these changes? To me, this data is like a freshly baked pan of cookies just out of the oven. It hasn't even had a chance to cool. Further study of this data and disaggregating the data by year, by race, ethnicity, and by region could yield some insights as to the cause of these changes. But one cause that it is fairly go to and is reasonably likely is COVID and its associated impacts, stimulus payments, enhanced unemployment benefits, layoffs, job loss, sheltering in place. All of these factors contributed to significant changes in the small business landscape, including a surge in so-called side hustles. At the same time, COVID and other historic events in 2020, such as the murder of George Floyd, the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, and widespread civil unrest, led to an unprecedented focus on structural racism. It created enormous political will to enact significant policies, including the PLPA and the State Community Reinvestment Act, and it put large financial institutions under immense pressure. In response to such pressure, banks pledged to devote a large amount of financial resources to correct the many inequities in our financial systems. These commitments may have had an impact, but it's far too early to celebrate. COVID and COVID-related responses have long begun to fade. The improvements reflected in this data might be temporary without a sustained and structural commitment. Now, I am confident that shining a light on this issue has and will continue to impact access to capital in a positive way. WBEZ and Citi Bureau released a story in June 2020 called Where Banks Don't Lend, which was focused on mortgages. For many, the main takeaway from that report was that Chicago lenders invested more in a single white neighborhood than in all Black neighborhoods combined. And for many policymakers in Illinois, and in Chicago in particular, that was the last straw. Next slide, please. Now, as I mentioned earlier, getting a loan from a bank or not getting a loan from a bank is not the end of the story for many small businesses. After getting denied a loan from a bank, a small business may find itself being courted by an array of non-bank lenders with names that never say bank, but frequently include the words capital, funding, or finance. Next slide, please. This slide shows an actual contract from a non-bank small business lender. Again, many small businesses unable to obtain financing from a bank may turn to a non-bank lender like the one here, which can often be found online if you search small business loan, for example. Now, this loan agreement reflects a, quote, specified percentage of 15%. A small business, or any one of us, might understandably think that this is an interest rate. It is not. It is the percentage of revenue that must be paid to the lender to repay the loan. The APR on this loan is more than 300%. Next slide. And here are some more actual examples showing triple-digit interest rates that were not disclosed anywhere in the loan documents. Next slide. And this slide shows a snippet from a Wall Street Journal article that was published last week regarding business bankruptcies and merchant cash advances, or MCAs, which are a form of sales-based financing. With sales-based financing, the amount you pay on any given day is contingent on a business's sales. MCAs are part of the non-bank lending market that is the focus of our advocacy efforts. Next slide. So to better protect Illinois small businesses, one of Woodstock's top policy priorities is SB 2234 and HB 5587. These bills would require non-bank lenders to register or be licensed and would require them to disclose the annual percentage rate, or APR, of their loans. Next slide. Now, if you are interested in supporting this bill, we hope you will join our coalition, which you'll hear more about later from Tasha. As nonprofits fighting for consumers, we are often opposed by well-funded interests who use their money in a variety of ways to try and defeat us. Wielding financial power is as easy as writing a check and hiring a lobbyist, while mobilizing people power is a lot of work. One of our goals today is that some of you will join our ranks. Our opponents will likely outspend us, but they won't outwork us. We always look forward to hearing from folks, that is, we always want to hear from folks who have been impacted by the policies that we're working on. If you yourself have experienced difficulties with respect to small business lending, we would love to hear from you. As you can see here, we provide a small stipend to folks who provide a little bit of their time, and you can access the opportunity by scanning the QR code. Now, speaking of a person who has some experience with the issue that I've just been talking about, I'm now going to pass the virtual microphone to Stacie, who is herself an entrepreneur and has had more than her first share of experience accessing or trying to access small business credit. Stacie, take it away.
Thank you, Brent. Hello, everyone. My name is Stacie Folk, and I am a Chicago resident, born and raised. I'm also an entrepreneur in the entertainment industry. I own Great Minds Escape, which is an escape room business in Chicago. I knew that starting a business would not be easy, but some of the hardships that I have dealt with, in my opinion, have not been easy. They have been difficult, more difficult than they should be. To start, I was leasing a space that I was ultimately not able to get the permits to build because the owner owed the city some outstanding debt. So they wouldn't allow me to get permits to build. So that led me to want to own my own property so that I wouldn't be denied the permits in the future, because I would basically be owning the space and it wouldn't be denied based on someone else's debt that they owed. So I reached out to a bank that I had been a loyal customer of for about 16 years. And I reached out to them to try to get a loan to purchase the property. I found the building and I went to this bank, and what they did was they strung me along. I started the process in about October 2023. So for months, they strung me along by this asking me to submit several documents. Every time I gave them what they asked for, they asked for more information. It finally took them to this past January 2024, and they denied me. And one of the reasons that they denied me for this particular loan was saying that because I had a full-time job and they didn't think I would be able to manage running my own business, which is ridiculous to say the least. Um, I have worked incredibly hard to get to the point where I am now. My credit is excellent. I have stable income, have business plans with financial projections that will work. So it was very disheartening and disappointing to hear that I was denied from this particular institution. I felt like they should have been celebrating my hard work and dedication, and not only to better myself, but to better my community. Since then, I have been trying to find other safe and affordable financial options to start my business. I think that there is this misconception in the Black and Brown communities that nobody is working to revitalize our communities. But the reality is that we are denied the access to capital necessary for us to be successful. Without access to affordable financing at fair rates, we are unable to invest in our communities, which is what we all want to do. Now, because I am denied financing by the banks, I was steered to alternative lending that no one has ever heard of, and risking being taken advantage of by these scam artists or predatory lenders that charge high interest rates, which is exactly, what I am experiencing right now. I believe that the banks need to take a look at how they are accepting and denying credit access to individuals, and specifically in the Black and Brown communities, because they are a major reason why we are not able to better ourselves or our communities. And that's all. Thank you so much for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Stacie. What we'll bring up Monique Thurman. Monique is the program coordinator for the Empowering Black Futures Initiative of Claretian Associates. So Monique, please share with us during this town hall. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. And it's an honor to be able to sit on this amazing panel. My name is Monique Thurman, and I am the Empowering Black Futures Coordinator for Claretian Associates. Fifth Third Bank's Empowering Black Futures Initiative was created to accelerate revitalization in 9 key communities across 7 states. South Chicago is one of the 9 majority Black communities participating in the program, and Claretian Associates was selected as the program lead organization in the EBF program. As you can see in my slide, the program has 5 goals. I have really honed in on the second goal, promoting prosperous small Black-owned businesses. The Empowering Black Futures, as the Empowering Black Futures coordinator, and a small small business owner myself, I can relate to the barriers that the business owners of South Chicago are experiencing. As a testimony, navigating through situations surrounding credit repair, credit building, access to capital, and leveraging a loan. These things can be very daunting and disheartening if you are always being told no, or you don't fit the criteria, or being made to feel like you just don't fit the profile. It can either shatter your dreams or make your dream come to fruition. Next slide, please. So when speaking to the small business landscape, South Chicago is located on the south side. It is 10 miles south of the downtown area. As you can gather from this slide, Black business owners are disproportionately underrepresented on the quarter, even though the residential population is comprised of 73%. In South Chicago, we do have an SSA that does a wonderful job supporting businesses with SIF grants and facade rebates. However, we would like to provide more TA and wraparound services for businesses addressing barriers such as access to capital, the difficulty utilizing public sector resources, and most importantly for me, helping those businesses that are operating under the radar to become legitimate businesses. Next slide, please. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to tell you. By building trust with my small business owners. I check in with my small business owners constantly. I offer nothing but transparency in my work. I work with my partner TA providers and co-develop technical assistance programs that are physically based here in South Chicago and uniquely tailored to each business. As I advocate for my small business owners, I build and strengthen my relationship with my TA providers as well, including establishing MOUs, memorandums of understanding, which ensures that my partners are meeting the needs of the small businesses in South Chicago by being very prescriptive and meeting them where they are at. Next slide, please. In doing so, I have adopted a hub and spoke model to connect small business owners with additional resources like business development tools, funding opportunities, and ensuring follow-ups. I truly believe that there needs to be a level of continuity and care between all parties involved while we work in tandem to advocate for South Chicago and small business owners and residents. Thank you for my time.
Monique, before you conclude, can you please explain SSA?
SSA is SSA is a special services area group, and what they do is they help the businesses with facade rebates, technical assistance. They also have a Thrift and Thrive, which they do with the small business owners. They present a space for them to come out in the community and sell their wares at no cost. And again, providing that assistance where they are able to fix up their outside of their buildings and get rebates for their businesses.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's turn things over to Adrian Rodriguez of the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Adrian, we can't hear you.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Super. I just made my best joke over there, so hopefully it works.
Oh, we missed it. Okay.
No, next time. Well, my name is Adrian Rodriguez. I'm part of the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We are an organization pretty unique. I'm not here to speak about what the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce does. We're a vast organization. We serve thousands of businesses every year across the whole state from north to south. And what I want to say is that we work tirelessly to empower our Latino community through entrepreneurship, access to contracts, and access to capital. We understand the challenges of our community firsthand, starting with access to capital. We have spoken about challenges, right? But let's not forget what the opportunity is if we close the gap in terms of access to capital. We're missing trillions of dollars if we close the gap in access to capital. This is creating a real inclusive economy that allows our community to create generational wealth. This is the point, and this is why the access to capital comes to the core of what we do. Also, this is the right thing to do, not just because it's convenient, but it's also the right thing to do. Let me start with this just to give you a sense of a little bit of our work. Of course, we know that we need money to make money. That is essential to the business, right? And I remember we address all these challenges with different entities. And what we one occasion I heard from one of them that you can't just show up and ask for capital. And I say, well, then how you do it? You get a line, you do anything specific? What really is the problem? And then something that we heard back is that, oh, there has to be a training, there has to be this, there has to be that. Okay, that's fine. But that is implying that I'm the problem, and I'm not the problem. Let's stress where exactly the problem is, where exactly the risk perception is within the systematic perception in the systemic process. Let me give you some statistics. I mean, I have hundreds of presentations, hundreds of slides about this because this is something we do every day. A Latino business is 60% less likely to be approved for a bank loan. Let me repeat that really quick. A Latino business is 60% less likely to be approved for a bank loan, right? And this is according to the Stanford University. When you look the metrics, and by every metric, the Latino business might outperform a white-owned business. Anyhow, when it comes to the revision and the risk perception, the metrics changes, right? When we address this with all institutions, we heard that, oh, we really don't see what the ethnicity is. Still, the perception of risk is higher within any underrepresented business owner. That is a big problem. And that is just to give you one data point, a different one, and the venture capital, which is even more complicated. Even though 19% of the businesses opened by Latinos are in tech, less than 2% of available venture capital goes to Latino businesses. Again, risk perception. We don't have, and we can't rely on our friends and family. We are our own friends and family. Then we rely on these systems to bring the resources for our community, again, to create a real inclusive economy and prosper with generational wealth. Social mobility, it cannot be made just by one generation. It has to continue through generations. And that's what we have to ensure with and through entrepreneurship. A Latino business owners is 9 times more likely to create generational wealth than a non-business owner. This is why access to capital is key for our community, is the essence of our community to be empowered and create this generational wealth. So that is my participation. Thank you so much for the time allowed.
Adrian, thank you so much. Let's bring in the audience. Let's bring in those who may have some questions. And while we are preparing to answer your questions, I want to do a quick recap. We've heard a lot. We've heard from legislators, State Senator Christopher Belt. We heard from some of our consumer advocates, which included Woodstock. We heard from a business owner. We heard from another community stakeholder. I want you all to understand how widespread this issue is. It's not just for the business owner, but this issue has implications in our communities, in our businesses, and even in our homes as we look to build wealth. And so you may have a lot of questions. You may not understand the intersection, how this applies to your work. So if you all have the ability to either unmute your call, because you can speak during this portion, just unmute your call. Or if you have a question, you can submit one through the Q&A feature. But we would love to hear from the listening audience. So again, come off mute and or use the Q&A feature to ask your question. Let me do a quick check with someone. Can anyone on the call just unmute do you have the ability to unmute? Because sometimes we don't have the ability to unmute. So let me know, just say that you're here or that you're present, so I'll know if you have the capability.
Tasha, I believe we have it set so that people can't unmute, but if folks want to message the hosts, then we can prompt you to unmute so you can come on and give your testimony, share your experience.
Great, thank you, Jane. So yep, I'm getting that. I can't unmute. Okay, so if you're interested in speaking, let me know and we will unmute you. Has any questions come through our Q&A?
In the meantime, while folks are getting their questions in, I know one question that I hear from people a lot in talking about this work is, so I know there are some responsible, transparent, non-bank lenders out there. What stake do they have in this bill in requiring all lenders to be transparent in their price and disclose APR so that small businesses can comparison shop? What stake do lenders have in this? And I wonder if maybe Brent or one of our legislators can speak to that.
Well, I'll start. Thank you, Jane, for the question. This initiative will, I believe, if successful, help level the playing field and elevate the good actors who exist in both spaces, the bank and the non-bank. So at the end of the day, it's really about trying to create a framework in which the responsible lenders, bank, non-bank, can thrive and give the state tools to go after or to eliminate the bad actors in terms of the predatory lenders and the like. So that's what I think is kind of at the end of the day, it's a win-win for the responsible lenders because they are able to compete on a more level playing field. And it's a win for the small businesses, as I've discussed, and for their customers. So that's my take on it. Representative Huynh, do you want to time it? You're right below my square. So
Thank you, Brent. Yeah, it's Representative Huynh here. I think very much to Brent's point as well. I think it allows for us to level the playing field right now for small businesses. I think the other thing that's very important is making sure that small businesses, as we heard through this conversation, the ability to really get capital, right? You know, I mean, even the fact that Adrian Rodriguez from the Hispanic Chamber mentioned, 60% of Latino businesses are unable or less likely to receive a bank loan, right? I mean, that's a very high number, and we want to make sure that if they're unable to receive a bank loan, that they're also able to receive loans from the non-banks. But again, these non-banks have to be regulated, and it's providing that fair rate, but it also allows for small businesses to shop around. I mean, price shop and acquire the capital in order to operate their business expenses. So I think that's, again, very important at the end of the day for our small business protections and yeah.
I also want to chime in, and I agree with Representative Huynh, and I agree with Brent as well. It's putting guardrails in places, right? It's allowing the small business owner to be more aware of their rights relative to the loan process. Part of the thing that the legislation calls for is for the small business owners to know their rights in how to file a complaint with the department. It's and again, we understand that there's a place for alternative lending. We just, under no circumstances do we want that alternative to be predatory in nature, right? We understand that we want that business model to thrive, but we also need our small businesses to be here Our economy is based off small businesses and thriving small businesses, and we see that there's an uptick in bankruptcy throughout the land, actually, throughout the nation, and a lot of them point to this predatory lending that is in the commercial space. And so we need to look at that, and we need to put things in places to protect our small businesses, because at the end of the day, as Brent said, it's a win-win situation. When small businesses thrive, our communities thrive. When our communities thrive, our state thrives. When our state thrives, the nation thrives. So we really need to put those guardrails in places. We need to root out the bad actors. And I think this legislation is a huge step in getting that done.
We do have another question in the chat. We were trying to invite the participant to ask the question. I think we're having some challenges with unmuting, so I'll ask. So this meeting has been a great demonstration of knowledge and points majority of the flaws in small business lending, but it does not cover the fundamentals on credit for new or young small business owners. I believe the misconception is dilapidated areas is that business owners are from business professional background. There are many small business owners that are great at running a business, but don't have the assistance, understanding credit to begin the process of accessing needed funds for sustainability. Are there programs for them? So I'm going to put that out there to a few of our business service organizations. Monique, can you speak a little bit to the programs that are available? I know you mentioned earlier being a hub and spoke.
Yes, I can speak to that. We have business partners that I work with. Working Credit is one of the partners that I work with that assist in credit building and credit resources. We actually had them come out to our facility and give a workshop for our staff here, because we felt that if we're going to go out into the community and be a presence and try to teach about credit, we need to learn that for ourselves, right? So they were instrumental in doing that. We are actually getting ready to have a spring Working Credit event for the community out here in South Chicago. So that is one. Center for Changing Lives is another one of our partners that specialize in credit assistance. They have credit resources and credit workshops that they do as well, just to name a few. So there are a couple. I can put the information in the chat.
Great. Adrian, did you have resources as well that you wanted to share?
Absolutely. We have, as I said, 12 different programs at the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that are at no cost at all to the users. So many of them, actually, we have an agreement. We just signed an MOU with multiple capital providers to provide technical assistance. And I want to say this: there are bad actors, right? So we do a vetting process to do this collaboration, to bring capital providers that understand the needs of our communities, from undocumented business owners to someone that is really new, someone that needs maybe some guidance in how to put together the cash flow. So all that type of documentation. However, we don't want anyone to miss an opportunity just because they don't know how to do P&L analysis. So that is not going to be the case. We can do it for them. We can do it with them and teach them how they do it. That's fine. On the other side, there's a lot of training to do as well. There's a lot of training in terms of, okay, just for example, we were part of a program that had 17 steps within the process to receive funding, right? So in the step number 12, there was a confirmation email that you have to click. And then when we look at data, because we were overseeing the whole operation, we looked at 20% of the people were stuck at that confirmation email. So that is the type of barriers we have to detect on time. I mean, that is as easy as just remove that and get it straight to, or just call them, or there has to be an intentionality from, yes, we will do the training on the business side, but also there has to be an intentionality on the capital provider side to bring the resources with a cultural sensitive understanding on what the challenge we're trying to address. So yes, to answer the question directly, yes, we have resources. I invite everyone to join us. These resources are at no cost here at the IHGC, and also capital providers, so we can keep growing the collaboration to bring resources to our communities.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Other questions? Any other questions from the listening audience, or anything else that our speakers would like to share?
I actually had a question. Speaking as a business owner, I was trying to figure out what hope do I have, because I've gone through process of improving my credit to get it to where it's excellent at this point. I felt like I've submitted like a golden application like several times, and I keep getting rejected. So I really don't know what the ultimate problem is. And I just don't know what hope do I have, because I've done everything that they've been asking me for, and I felt like it pretty much was great on paper, and then you have to submit your ID, your ID, so they can see what you look like. And then it feels like after they see that I'm a Black woman, then now all of a sudden I don't meet the requirements anymore. So I'm not really sure what hope I actually have, because it's like I've done the work, and now it's still not bearing any fruit for me. So I really don't know if I'm asking for too much. I feel like it'd be easier for me to go and get a credit card, within 2 minutes, they'll say approved. But months later, I'm going through a loan process and it end up being denied. It's easier for me to get the stuff that means nothing. As far as department store credit cards and all that, I don't need any of that. I'm looking for a business loan so I can create and start my business, but there's really not too many options. I went to the big lenders, went to the small lenders. I mean, it's just, and the grants that are out there are not really helping unless I have a space, and I'm getting scammed by the owners of the space. So I'm trying to purchase my own space, and I'm still getting stopped. So it's like, okay, what is going on?
Yeah, Stacie, earlier when you were sharing your experience, one of the lenders on the call, Antonio Gillen of Wintrust, mentioned how, they have programs to help small business owners. And so there are community banks that have recognized the gap in the larger banking system, and they really want to be able to support smaller business owners. Even another lender on the call mentioned that a lot of the rejection is just based on the appetite of the banks. And so there are a lot of factors that go into your ability to access credit. My heart was torn when you said you had stable income, and yet and still you were still denied. Because one of the things, when I was a TA provider, one of the things that I would say to business owners is to not quit your job so that you can reflect the steady income, because banks want to see that you have monies coming into your household and that you're able to service the loan. And to hear you say that that's something that you positioned yourself for and still didn't get the loan really shows the flaws in the system. And so I would encourage you to take advantage of the working credits of the world. I would love for you to add something, Abby. I've been trying to get you to unmute. Abigail Scanlon, she and I worked together at the Women's Business Development Center, and now she's in banking. So Abby worked directly in this area. So I'm going to see if we can get her to come off mute. If not, Abby, you'll have to put your comments in the chat. But Stacie, I would encourage you to work with folks like Working Credit, a nonprofit organization that would help really look at your individual case, case by case, and help you work through that. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Rob is, oh, good, she's able. Yay. There you are, Abby. Yes.
I can speak.
Yes.
So I just want to add, not necessarily from a Fifth Third perspective, but definitely as my former role as Director of Access to Capital at the WBDC, working with partners in the other at the other nonprofits, right? Like the WBDC, like the Illinois Hispanic Chamber, their expertise, a lot of those folks have come from, strong backgrounds of banking and et cetera. So they really do recognize how, your loan package, more or less, can be formatted and kind of tied up in a bow so that it does look a lot more presentable and more appetizing for those banks, right? And again, just like Tasha was saying, when it really kind of depends on the appetite of the bank. And then also too, there are a lot of programs that are available at certain banks that are geared, for these situations. So definitely partner with an organization like Claretian or IHCC, WBDC. I mean, all of them, they're here. They offer free coaching and counseling and a lot of extensive knowledge. So, that was always my best advice. Like, go get a couple of second opinions, have someone review your cash flow, and really find someone too. Like, I know you're in an escape room entertainment type industry, knowing, somebody that has, previous experience within that industry too, because that's also kind of considered high risk sometimes. You just never know, right? Like during the pandemic, you guys were devastated, right? So those type of things can be high risk. And so that's the other part of it too, right? You need to find a bank that would be also willing. It's not necessarily about, race and color and things like that. It's about, the industry too. So a couple factors to take a look at. So, but always partner, always have a partner.
I just had another question. Like, okay, for me, I'm not a bank or a lender, so I just never understood why it mattered, what my business is going to be. I'm trying to purchase this building, and I clearly have the financial means to pay the loan. So when you put so much effort on whether or not my business is going to be successful, and that determines you loaning me this money, I feel like if I show you that I can pay the loan, whether my doors are open or not, why not still give me the loan? I just never understood that aspect.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. I think Randy also wanted to address one of your questions, if not both. So Randy, if you're able to come off mute, and then we have Adrian. Yeah, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciated Mrs. Stacie Folk, again, what you were talking about. I just wanted to sit there and offer an angle that will possibly be helpful for all the small businesses. A little bit about my background. Again, I've been a professional designer here in Chicago for about almost 20 years, and I've also been on the board of the Organization of Black Designers here in Chicago. There is the one side that I've noticed, again, that all small businesses are trying to find the proper loan. Again, if you're going ahead to establish a business, or you're going ahead, to build either a brick or mortar. The other side that I can offer to consider is I am the owner of a marketing and a design firm just started here in Chicago. And if there could be intuitive ways and strategies to develop your marketing while you are looking for a loan to try to increase your capital, we can help with strategies, or you can go to either design firm, or you can find the right designer that can help your marketing assets to start to increase based off the budget that you have. Again, all the small businesses are trying to come off the ground and build with either their existing capital, but what do you do with the marketing that you currently have? What do you do?
That's great. No, really, that's a really good point, Randy. Man, we're running out of time, and we want to make sure that Representative Huynh also has an opportunity. Adrian, would your comment be really short? If not, I need to throw it over to Representative Huynh.
It will be less than 20 seconds. I just
Okay,
want to.
so thank you, Randy. Put your contact information. I'll share it. Go ahead, Adrian.
Stacie, we work really hard to provide safe space when you can speak with capital providers and ask those questions, right? So they can remove their selling hat and say like, oh, this is how you do it. So I recommend you to reach out and help you. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to recognize also Antonio Guillen. I was speaking about someone who understands and on the ground what the challenges are. That's a person that really understand that. We've been working with him and his institution for a while. So thank you. And it's hard to navigate that world. So we need persons like him. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Huynh, we definitely want to give you the time to share as we close out this town hall.
Great. Thank you so much, Tasha. And really thank you so much to Woodstock Institute and everyone that's on this call today. Really, I think it's been a robust discussion and really a lot of information that we presented. I think certainly I really appreciate Stacie as well, sharing your perspective and your stories. One of the things that Brent talked about from the Woodstock Institute is, we had the Predatory Loan Prevention Act that was enacted in March 2021. I think in that act, we were able to certainly cap the APR at 36%. That was not covered to these new small business lending startups. And so one of the things that we're looking at in this cycle, and this is something that we've been working with a large coalition with various stakeholders, I think certainly Woodstock Institute, Small Business Majority, Small Business Advocacy Council, the Allies for Community Business. So we've also worked with the banks as well. So the Community Bankers Association of Illinois, the Illinois Bankers Association, and the Illinois Credit Union League as well, and to introduce this bill. This bill is House Bill 5587. It is called the Protect Small Business Act. It was introduced in Springfield, February 2024 of this year. We are working diligently to move this bill to committee testimony in the next couple of weeks in Springfield. And really this Small Business Act, the Protect Small Business Act, it will be administered by the Division of Federal Financial Institutions. That's on behalf of IDFPR, which is the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. This is to really ensure that there's parity, right? We know, again, that the banks are regulated, the banks are transparent. The folks who are not regulated are the non-banks, right? The non-bank lenders. So this is going to be a multi-pronged approach to really protect small businesses by regulating the non-bank entities. So one of the first things that we want to do is to make sure that we put in a licensing requirement, right? So this licensing requirement is going to allow for the Department of Financial and Professional Regulations to license these entities, right? So any entity that provides commercial financing, any of these unregulated non-bank entities are going to have to go through this licensing process with the Department of Financial and Professional Regulations. So that's the first thing. They have to file an application for a license with the Secretary of IDFPR. I think the other thing is allowing for the Secretary to examine the business affairs of these licensing. So really making sure that they are in compliance with the law itself. And then really making sure that they're providing the department really a report as well, right, of their commercial financing activities. So who are they financing to? How are they doing it? What are some of the details behind these financing? But again, really making sure that we are providing transparency to an industry, particularly these unregulated lenders who have not been regulated, right, have not been licensed. Again, pushing for licensing for these lenders. The second thing that we'll be doing in this multi-pronged approach is the creation of the commercial financing database. So this is, again, housed within IDFPR. It's going to allow for, again, a reasonable method of reporting from these commercial lenders. I think this database is going to be maintained and administered by IDFPR. Again, we want to increase transparency in the system. We know that banks have been very transparent when it comes to APR rates, when it comes to providing funding mechanisms for small businesses. So we are basically doing the same for these non-bank lenders, right? So again, some of the information that's going to be obtained that has to be submitted to IDFPR will be, again, the total amount of commercial financing, having that disclosed to IDFPR, the disbursement amount, the total repayment amount, what that looks like, the finance charge amount, the term of financing, the APR rates, so some of those variables are going to be included in this database of reporting that is going to be, again, regulated by IDFPR. It's a way for us to make sure that any bad actors that's in the space are going to have to submit this information online to the Department of Financial and Professional Regulations. And again, we know the banks already do this, but the non-bank lenders are not. So we want to, again, increase parity and establish parity amongst the two entities. And this is also going to allow for us to put in safeguards as well, right? So the information that's contained in this database is going to be confidential. It's also making sure that we are following in protecting small businesses. So this is all very exciting. This has been really a coalition effort. All the folks who are on this call right now, we heard the voices of small business owners as well that have been struggling with this. So we want to make sure that this is done in Springfield, but we're looking forward to really pushing for this bill in the next couple of weeks once we get it out to Springfield. So I really, really appreciate everyone that's on this call today. and all of the presenters and Woodstock Institute and Tasha and the Small Business Majority for really making sure that we're convening and collaborating in these efforts. And also to the banks as well, who've been in discussion with us to make sure that, again, we are building a much more equitable banking system and credit lending system for small businesses.
Fantastic. Thank you all for joining us. We will follow up with an email that has this recording, also the link to join the coalition, and hopefully you will reread or re-listen to this presentation because we want you all to be a part. Thank you so much. Click the QR code to join the coalition, and we look forward to connecting with you on future calls. Have a great day, everyone. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.